In the northeastern stretch of Delano, there is a neighborhood people rarely talk about after dark. By day, the Morningside area feels ordinary. Quiet streets, trimmed lawns, children's voices drifting over fences. But when the sun dips low and the light begins to fade, something else settles in. Something older. Long before the houses, before the pavement and playgrounds, the land beneath Morningside Park and Morningside School was said to be sacred ground. Ancient burial land, marked not by stone, but by memory. And memory, unlike stone, does not erode. It lingers. The first stories came quietly, a flicker of lights in nearby homes, a shadow passing through a hallway where no one stood. At first, people blamed wiring, imagination, exhaustion, especially since they were your average cookie-cutter homes. But patterns began to form. Too many witnesses, too many similarities. In the homes surrounding the park, residents started reporting the same thing. Movement in the corners of their rooms. Not figures, not clearly, but something darker than the darkness itself. Something that shifted when you weren't looking directly at it. And always, the feeling of being watched. One woman who lived across from the park claimed that every night at exactly 2:13 a.m., her kitchen light would flicker, not just once, but in a slow, deliberate rhythm, like a signal. When she finally gathered the courage to sit and watch it happen, she swore she saw a shape standing just beyond the sliding glass door. Tall, still, waiting. She moved out 3 weeks later, but the heart of the stories, the place where everything seems to center, is the school. Children at Morningside School have always talked. Not loudly, not all at once, but enough that teachers began noticing patterns. The elevator near the cafeteria was one of the first things. It wasn't supposed to move on its own. It required a key. Staff confirmed this repeatedly. Yet students would whisper about seeing it open by itself, the doors sliding apart, with a soft metallic groan, revealing nothing inside. Then it would close again, and go up and down. No one ever admitted to being inside when it moved. Maintenance checked it, found nothing. But the stories didn't stop. Out on the playground, what the kids called Treasure Island, there was something else, something harder to explain. Laughter. Not just any laughter, but the unmistakable sound of children playing. Echoing across the jungle gym late in the afternoon, sometimes even after sunset when the campus should have been empty. Staff would go to check, expecting to find kids who had stayed behind. But the playground would always be empty. Swings still, slides untouched, and yet the laughter would continue, just faint enough to make you question if you really heard it. But the oldest story, the one that people only talk about in hushed tones, came from someone who attended the school when it first opened. They said there was always a boy. Not unusual at first. Schools are full of children. But this boy, he didn't belong to any class. He didn't line up. He didn't go inside when the bell rang. He just stayed at the playground, every day. Some kids played with him. They remembered his face, his voice, the way he laughed. But when they tried to tell teachers about him, no one knew who they were talking about. No records, no enrollment. No parents ever came asking for him. And the strangest part? Not every child could see him, only some. Years later, as adults, those same children began comparing memories. And that's when the realization set in. They all remembered the boy, but none of them had ever seen him at the same time. It was as if he existed, just out of sync. Like he was slipping through moments instead of living in them. One former student returned years later, curious, maybe even skeptical. They stood at the edge of Morningside Park as the sun began to set, watching the playground from a distance. At first, there was nothing, just silence. Then, faintly, laughter. They froze. The jungle gym stood still, empty as always. But near the far edge, just for a second, they saw movement. A small figure, a boy, standing perfectly still, watching them. They blinked, and he was gone. That night, they swore they heard footsteps following them, all the way home. Not behind them, but beside them, matching their pace, step for step. To this day, people in the Morningside area still report shadows crossing their yards, lights flickering for no reason, and voices that seem to come from nowhere. Some say it's just stories, local legends that grew over time, but others know better, because in that part of Delano, the ground remembers. And sometimes, it doesn't like being forgotten.